Let's see if you know this old one. Look what the Lord has done. Look what the Lord. Don't even try to find it. He healed. He touched my mind. He saved me. And I'm gone. I hear you. Think we can do it one more time? We said, look what. Come on, put your hands together. Look what the Lord has done. He healed my body, say. He touched my mind. He saved me. Everybody say. Praise his name. Each day he's just. Look what. Oh, let's give him praise. Come on. I know you could find it. The reason I asked you not to is I don't want you guys doing our praising for us. Come on. They can sing the lyrics, but we got to give him praise. Come on, we got to give him praise for ourselves. He's done so much for me, I cannot tell it all. Amen. Anybody still sing songs like that at church? I know it's been a minute. Songs like, oh, I want to see him and look upon. There it is. I said, oh, cares on. All right, all right. Some people are lost, but some people are having a good time. I'll be honest, I don't even care what genre you like. For the Southern gospel people in the room, you know who you are. For the gospel people, you like it just a little more soul. Good on you. What about some of you contemporary Christian vanilla folks in the room? Just tell them. You know, it's not about a genre, it's about a name. Come on, whether you go to a country church or a progressive church, whether you're in the middle of a metro area or in the where two or three, come on, get gathered in his name. Felt like I was picking that up a little bit while they were trying to lead. I felt some people in the room saying, I've never heard that song. You have. It's the song of the redeemed. It might sound a little different. The notes are a little bit different. The bridge might be a little bit. For some of you, that was normal. For some of you, you've never heard it. My question is, can you worship him either way? Amen. All right. Find 3 or 4 people and ask them to worship with you while you're making your way back to your seats. Just say, worship with me while I help the preacher tonight. Thanks to the band. Thanks to the singers. Good job, good job, good job. Shout out to our powerful apostolic female bass player. That was dynamic. Love it. Awesome. Thanks to my friends, the Thayers, and this youth committee. Really enjoyed being with them. I know we talk a lot about Brother Kyle Thayer, but I'm going to tell you, Part of why he's such a good man is because that wife of his is such a good woman. And we're thankful for her. Yeah. I'm glad my beautiful bride is here. Let me just tell every student in the room here this evening, if they're not marrying material, they're not dating material. And I've got news for some people in the room that think all you need is a boyfriend or a girlfriend. If you don't like yourself single, you won't like yourself in a relationship. So you get this right first. Yeah. Get that right first, and then the horizontal relationships will work out. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 40. Thank you, Brother Lehman. Thank you to this district board and this team. It's been good to reconnect with some friends while we've been here. Sure appreciate them. Got to go and see Brother Dwayne's church today, just down the road, Cornerstone. So glad for their remodel. That was nice of them to open the door. You know, we ought to celebrate together. We got to celebrate together. You know, my great hope is that they baptize somebody on Sunday in Jesus' name. Somebody is filled with the baptism of the Holy Ghost. If that happens for them, that's a revival in Michigan. In fact, I feel like if that happens, I hope you text me and tell me, because that'll be revival for the body. We're in this together. Amen. 1 Samuel 17, verse 40. Lord, I'm going to preach in Michigan. I want to preach about somebody that is so obscure, so revelatory, that the students have never heard. And the Lord drew me, to a very, very unfamiliar gentleman by the name of David. Have you heard of? Okay. Maybe you're more scholarly than I thought. And he took his staff in his hand, and he chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook. Everyone say 5 smooth stones. And put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, kind of hung here on the side, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. I want to preach to you tonight on our final night of this HYC to this incredible, powerful group of apostolic young people in Michigan. I want to preach to you on this thought: a pocket of rocks. A pocket of rocks. Turn to your neighbor, nudge him, tell him I guess he's preaching about rocks. Turn to your other neighbor, nudge them, and ask them, why do preachers always want us to talk to our neighbor? I can tell you why I like to do it. Number one, it gets you loosened up. But number two, it's always obvious to me that if you can't even talk to each other, I know you can't talk to friends. Come on, if we can't talk to each other in church about preaching, how are we going to talk to people outside the church about preaching? We got to get involved in this. All right. I want everybody to take your hands and throw them towards heaven. Come on, if you're able, I want you to lift your hands towards heaven, and I want you to pray that this word would do its intended purpose in your life tonight. Every person at a different level, we understand that wherever you're at. God, speak to us. Help me to preach with wisdom, and help the ears to hear, hearts to have good ground ready to receive. I pray, oh Lord, we would be more than recipients, but that we would in fact be doers of the word. I pray that there would be not only hearing, but let there be great response in this room. But we need more than momentary response. We need lifestyle adjustment. Help us, we ask it. We want to be powerful men and women of the name of Jesus Christ. Help us, Lord. And let everybody say amen. You may be seated here tonight. Again, I'm preaching a pocket of rocks. A pocket of rocks. Now, I confess, at the very beginning of my message, it should not be a story I enjoy as much as I do. But I do enjoy it. I was a young committee member on the Ohio youth team. Where's our committee guys? Wave at me. Any of our committee guys in the room? Yeah, look at you. Some of you are not young, but you're committee guys. I see you. We're teasing somebody at lunch today about that. Sorry. I was a young committee member. I was just about 20 years old at the time, and I was standing there and I was talking at the camp during a camp that I was working at, and I had a very, very important job. I was the rec director. That's an important job. Praise God. Praise God. And it wasn't that important. I was standing there and I was talking to someone that I considered a great voice in my life, a mentor, someone that I looked up to. And I got a little bit of time there with them, and he was one of the leaders that was above me, and we were standing there and chatting. He was in a position of leadership, and I was just enjoying our conversation, him several years older than I was, and we were talking. But as we were talking, there began to be this sound. Let me see. And it just kind of kept happening until he finally looked at me and he said, we probably need to go see what that is. And I said, well, sure, absolutely. And I will never forget, Teddy. I'll never forget. We rounded the corner of the tabernacle around to the parking lot. And when we did, there was a little boy standing next to the brand new vehicle of the guy I was talking to. And he was reaching into his pocket. Plink. Plink. He had a whole pocket full of rocks. Plink. I will never forget just a young, impressionable man that I was standing next to this leader. I remember going, thinking to myself, you're gonna die. You're gonna die today. I'm gonna watch a child die. And I remember watching this man respond. Now, all the ministers, all the seasoned ministers in the room, most of us that are normal could be honest and say, we get mad too. We take a lot of liberty with that be angry and sin not. And I looked at that little boy, and I looked at him, and looked at that little boy, and looked at him. Finally, it took all that he had to look at that little boy. You know what I'm talking about? The death voice. You better go find your mom right now. Being interpreted, I want to kill you. Now, I hope you've never been guilty. Nah, I'm telling you, it shouldn't be such a favorite story. But it wasn't my car. Oh, that's funny. Most of us in this room, I hope you've never been a part of peppering a brand new vehicle with a pocket full of rocks. But if you have, this is not time for confession. How about skipping? How many you've ever skipped rocks? Be honest, we're in Michigan. I know I got some country folks in this room right here. Did you say yeehaw? I rode a horse and skipped at the same time. You need to rope in that yeehaw. Hello, Oklahoma. And standing on the bank and skipping rocks. You ever throw with somebody that is just so city they can't skip a rock at all? Stand next to somebody. Or you've always got that goofy person you try to take fishing and they want to throw a big old rock in the... You ever been fishing with somebody you wanted to throw them in the lake? Tell the truth. It's a pretty important rock story that we're reading about here in 1 Samuel 17. And the truth is, rocks are pretty important. We don't always think about them in such a way, but rocks are pretty important. In fact, there's probably some girls in the room right now hoping you'll get a rock that looks a bit... We got like 14-year-olds. You calm down. You calm down. I'll tell you right now, I got a girl that age. I will kill a guy. I know people. My wife and I, we had the awesome opportunity to go to Paris multiple times to preach. It's the work of the kingdom. You just got to do the work of the kingdom. And while we've been there, we've been to the Louvre multiple times. I think I'm saying it right. We got to go and we got to stand in a hallway where all the crown and the jewels are on display. They're put in these amazing, amazing boxes. There's security everywhere. And lined out for as far as you can see are emeralds and rubies and diamonds beyond what I would ever be able to financially even consider. There's rocks of all different types of value, from the smallest cubic zirconium that you still think is a diamond all the way up to emeralds and diamonds like these that are guarded here. The most disappointing rock in my entire life was not a diamond or a gem. It wasn't an emerald. It wasn't sapphire. No. It was when I went to Plymouth Rock. Did you realize that's what Plymouth Rock looks like? I'll never forget when I first went. I was preaching on the East Coast, and I was there with Brother Sternum, and he's the district superintendent, and I said, I've always wanted to see Plymouth Rock. I should have known I was in trouble when he said, don't get too excited. In my mind, it was going to be like the Rock of Gibraltar, right? I see the waves crashing and breaking. I've stood in Australia and looked out over the sea crashing in there at the Gap, and I thought, man, Plymouth, I want to see something right here in North America. I want to see it. I can't wait. When we went to it, again, walking away from him, he wasn't antsy. I said, I want to go, man. He called out one more time, don't be too underwhelmed. What are you talking about? How is that possible? This is how. That is possible. If you see that little bit of mortar there right next to the one, that's because Plymouth Rock is so strong that it broke when they tried to move it. And they just mortared it back together. See that little cage around it? When I walked up, it looked like Plymouth Rock was doing time. Rocks matter to us. They have significance. But I will tell you the most significant rocks of all time, I think, are hidden within the pages of this book. Tucked into the text of 66 different books, sandwiched between leather and written, forever understood and penned on this holy writ, which we call holy, and it is in fact just that. And we have stories from the beginning to the end of this thing about important rocks, none of which would be able to trump that we know the Rock of Ages, wrapped up in this book. But there are in fact, physical rocks that make a great difference. And some of you have even heard messages. I've got a friend that loves to preach about if the rocks cry out, what rocks could say from the scripture. And there are some rocks that could do some talking, but I don't want to focus on all rocks. I just want to dive into 1 Samuel here, and I want to take a look at chapter 17 and verse 40, and I want to talk about a pretty important little story. There is a young man, I told you last night, he's made it to a lot of these meetings, and I introduce him again to you tonight. His name is David, and everybody said, David. David is showing up here on the scene in a pretty important time. Pretty important time because it's war time. It's fighting time. It was the time when the Philistines were defying the children of God. David wasn't at battle. David was at home keeping the sheep, just a loyal little shepherd boy. But his brothers were at the war there with Saul and those mighty, I'm telling you, mighty men. And David is sent with a Meals on Wheels delivery. Give them a little something to eat. You know, war will make you feel hungry. So he comes to check on the boys, the brothers, and to bring them some food from Dad, because Jesse wanted to know that the boys were okay. But David shows up at an interesting time. Please stay with me for a moment. He shows up right after the shout of war. If you're not aware, you need to be aware that it was customary in the engagement of battle that every morning this army, these children of Israel, they would get up and they would dust themselves off from the night in the foxhole, and they would walk to the edge of the battlefield, and they would stroll across the battlefield armed and ready for warfare, and they would, what the Bible calls, shout that shout of war. Now, it's important that you understand they were crying out because it was wartime. It was battle time. It was the modern day version. Are you ready to rumble? It was the biblical times version of that. And they would step to the edge of that battlefield and they would say something like this: "Let's get it on." But then they would just turn around and walk back. It had become their routine, day after day after day, to have the shout with no intention of fighting. They were the average HYC. They had the shout of warfare because they knew they could very quickly return to the conveniences of mediocrity. And so they would shout. You know, guys in this room, be in agreement with me right now. You feel tougher when you're with your friends. You do. Be honest. How many guys in the room would be honest? You know if you make a fool out of yourself, it's likely when you're with friends. You will do stuff at the mall with friends you would never do on your own. I see young guys get bowed up at. I'm like, you're 120, nothing. But just because you're walking with 3 other pimple-faced kids, you think. Buff, tough, rough and stuff. Got all buddies together standing on the edge. Here they are. They're standing there. And I want to tell you something. Some of the guys in this army, they looked like fighters. They did. They were powerful. They were from the right stock. They were from the right pedigree. pedigree. Even Jesse's boys, Aminadab, Eliab, boy, they're standing there. They've got a bronze look about them. They've got bulging biceps, big old weightlifter chest, been bench pressing sheep and goats. Standing there ready to fight. Then why weren't they fighting? Well, because they decided to let the enemy dictate the way they would fight. Read your Bible. The Bible says the Philistines, or Philistines, whichever way you want to say it, dictated and said, send us a man. You know, it was always the original intention of the enemy to get us singled out one at a time. And I know what David is about to do in this story, but it was never the will of God for people to have to be singled out. We keep praying for Davids to rise up, and I'm praying that we'd stop getting Davids and start getting armies that would fight. I don't want one kid in the youth group. I want the whole. Oh, come on, somebody. I don't want one young lady that'll live for God. I want every young lady in the group to say the enemy is not going to determine how we fight this battle. Why would you let the enemy dictate how you fight? Turn to your neighbor and tell him, don't let the enemy tell you how to fight. Don't let the enemy tell you how you're supposed to fight this battle, telling you send us a man. And so David shows up and they've done the big let's go. That was awesome. You were fantastic screaming today. You think so? I've been working on that. It was throaty. I was nervous. I was nervous. You're a great shouter. You're a great shouter. You got the shouting down. Wow! Shout when everybody shouts. Now, unless you think I'm knocking on that, if you can't even shout when everybody shouts, you got bigger problems than them. Well, I'm not into all that worship like that. Just because you're a deep thinker doesn't mean you get to be a shallow worshiper. That's as good as anything I'll say right there. I will tell you this, in the apostolic church, we ought to look apostolic and worship. We are demonstrative people. We are demonstrative people. We lift our voice, we lift our hands, we run aisles, we dance in the church, we lift our... But we're not just doing it because it's what we do. It's because it's tied to who we are. So David shows up. His brothers are not happy. Wouldn't you think you're happy if my brother shows up? You know how many times in my entire life my brother has showed up with a snack for me? Starts with Z, ends with Eero. My brother ain't ever pulled up and said, I just brought you something to eat. I thought maybe you'd be hungry. No times ever. I'd at least say thank you. David shows up with a Lunchable. Guy's putting crackers and ham. Got one of those little ones with the Oreos in it. You know what I'm talking about? Good. One of the brothers got one of them little pizzas you can make. Ain't even got a microwave, but you'll eat it cold. is so confused because that Philistine keeps talking smack. And they got blue cheese crumbles and ham, and one guy's over there screaming into a pillow so he can be a better shouter. I don't know. And David said, what about the dude, the yeller dude guy, screaming, fee-fi-fo-fum guy? What? And then he hears that whoever defeats this dude, it's not just victory. Listen, hear me now. It's not just victory. There's a girl involved. A guy will do almost anything to impress a girl. And when Saul has told you there is a fine female on the line, David's like, his brothers are so mad. They started, we know why you're here. David, you're an embarrassment. You stink. You smell like sheep. What? Why? Did you wash your hands before you brought this? Don't be talking about that girl. Don't get involved in the conversation. Why are you here? Because some people would rather tear down their brother than actually fight the enemy. Oh, I feel like preaching for a minute right now. All you can do, some people, all they can find is the negative. All they can find, I don't even know why she got the solo. Because your attitude's terrible. That's why. I'm a better singer. No, you're not. Oh, my mama said I'm the best. Your mom lied. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't care if you're the greatest singer vocally in your group. If your attitude is tainted, come on, I've been doing this a long time. I'm just telling you the truth. We don't need young people that can sing good but won't even be prayed through when they get up on the platform. I don't know. I don't even understand why he lets him preach. He did the Fiery Five last month. Oh, no. You're not that blatant about it. You just send little texts that are disparaging. Little things like this. Heard that before. Okay, sermoncentral.com. You know, one of the most irritating things I deal with is with preachers thinks it's okay to put in a text thread or in a private thread something disparaging about another preacher. I will not respond. Don't include me in your text. And if I'm in your text thread, I will call you out in front of everybody. If you're going to be a part of the oneness of God, you've got to defend your brothers. You've got to stand up for your sisters. Yes, you do. Come on, I'm giving you some good, just helping you out right now. Aminadab, Eliab, they are irritated. They're irritated by David. They should have been defending their brother. He showed up right on time to save their carcass. He did. He's going to save everybody. And they're irritated. Listen, David gets into this whole deal and starts talking about, I've whipped some stuff. Look at it in verse 34. Says there was a lion please just, who's got a younger sibling? Who's ever been annoyed with your younger sibling? Come on, you lie, you fry. More hands went up the second time than people who had siblings. I don't know how that's biologically possible. Okay, now listen, older sibling. Oh, I was the younger sibling. I was the baby of the family. I can remember watching my mom tell my brother that he was taking me with him. Because it started something like this. Johnny, can I go? No. No. Every time, no. And then it went something like this. Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom. Mom. He never wants me to go. Johnny. Get him, Mom. You're good, Mom. So picture these older brothers. David's there talking about a lion. Kill no lion. He ain't killed no lion. David's talking about a bear. Okay, he never killed no bear. He never killed no bear. He never killed no bear. I never saw no bear. I ain't saw no bear. People are coming up to them and nudging them and being like, is that your brother? And they're like, shut up, man. Shut up. I just can't stand him. I can't stand. Picture, imagine how annoyed these brothers are when David gets Saul's armor on. We love to preach about it because he says, I haven't tried it. I don't fit it. I can't wear so. And that's the spiritual part. Just think about I don't think this is going to work. And the brothers are looking at him like, this is the stupidest thing ever. I just don't want to wish. They weren't praying God bless him. They were praying God blast him. They were done. They were D-O-N-E, done, 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 done. He said there was a lion. There was a bear. I gave it to business. I did. I rescued stuff out of its mouth. He says, I'll fight this guy. Don't want your armor. What are you going to use? I got this slingy. David, shut up, man. Go home. Take your cheese and go. I'll do it. What if you die? There's a girl involved. Good way to go. David wasn't worried about death. He was worried about the name of the Lord being defamed. Please, every gifted person in this room, please hear me. David did not show up to that conversation thinking he whipped the bear. Thinking he whipped I'm the lion tamer. No, he knew the Lord. And the same way the Lord helped me take care of them. So here we go. Here we go. Our opening verse. The Bible says he goes, gets his staff, which I think annoyed him. I'm just a younger brother. I know it annoyed him. Like, why'd you bring the staff? Like, why? Did you really bring a slingshot? Like, why? For the love of God. And he's got this little staff, and he gets down, right? How many know he gets down? He gets down. And what's he do? What's the Bible say he does? Where'd he get him? He goes over, please find the humor in this. He's about to go fight a giant, and the first thing he does is goes to the brook. And the brothers are looking at it. And friends are looking at the brothers like, what's your brother doing? And the brothers are like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not sure. He's slow. They don't know why he's digging down in the water, because some people can never be more than surface. They don't know what he's feeling around for. Let me ask you a question. Where did he find the stones at? In the brook. Do you think it's coincidence that eternal holy writ has it forever recorded to be preached at almost every meeting like this, that when it came time for him to find the rocks, he had to learn how to get in the flow to find them? Oh, don't get carried away. Don't get out of context. No, get in context. The erosion process that had taken place was those little rocks were the result of rocks that had probably came off the edge of the cliff and had poured into that thing, and over a period of time, those rocks had been smoothened out. Because he did not feel for jagged rocks, he found 5 smooth stones. He found stones that had been susceptible to the flow long enough that he knew they would work. He felt around in there. He didn't want any fresh stones that had just fallen in. He wanted some smooth stones, which meant they had spent an adequate amount of time being subject to the flow. Preacher pause right here. Give me a preacher's pause for a second. I'm telling you, if our services cannot have a flow of the Holy Ghost, then we are no different than any other church in our town. Hear me. You're not going to find anybody that likes structure more than I love structure. But if we are so structured that we cannot have a move of the Spirit and a flow of the Holy Ghost, then we better stop calling ourselves Pentecostal. Come on, apostolic young men and young women. We got to know how to get in the flow and say, God, get every rough edge off of. This is why you know why I like moments like this? Some of you are very rambunctious right now. Others of you cannot wait for the afterburner, just get done. I love when people worship like this and they help knock the rough edges off people around them. You know, one of the greatest parts of the qualifiers in every stream that helps the smoothing process, it's the other rocks that bump into them. I love that multiple youth presidents are here, and you have the audacity to honor another youth president, because we understand we make each other better. If we get in a flow of the Spirit and come on, we're not in competition with each other. We're building. In fact, I would preach to you tonight that those stones were the reflection of what him and his brothers should have been. Those stones were what they could have been, but those brothers were so irritated. And David reaches into the flow and he picks. I see his drenched arm coming up out of the water. 1, 2, 3. There's how many does he need? Is he doing it again? Yeah, he's doing it again. No more, David. 5 stones. Let me see. Be seated for a second. Just let me tell you something. Where's my buddy, Brother Moorhead? Where's? Whoop, whoop, where you at? I hear you, but I can't see you. Are you here? Did he ditch? I hope he ditched. He was here at the beginning. Oh, he'll never hear the end of this. Children's ministry is usually done by now. That's what I'm talking about. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. These stones, these have become the most stretchy stones in Scripture. I've heard all kinds of stuff preached about why he picked 5 stones. Brother Thayer, you're my friend. I've had people preach some powerful stuff about why he picked those other stones. Preach about the other brothers. There are more giants. Okay, awesome. Okay, maybe. I've heard them preach from Dan to Beersheba, why and how, and I'm going to give you some revelatory thought I've got. I think he picked 5 in case he missed. Oh, he never could have missed. That's easy to say after you know the end of the story. Oh, there was prophecy tied in them. Okay. If your pastor says that, yes, then yes. But if he doesn't, maybe just take a journey with me here for a second. I see young David. I see David on the outskirts of the field. Sheep are all, nah. Was that a goat or a sheep? I don't know. But I see him with his sling. I see him setting up Mountain Dew cans and Dr. Pepper. Putting them on how many's ever shot a BB gun and you shot? Yeah, so that's where I'm at. Anybody ever shot a slingshot? Anybody ever accidentally hit their hand with the slingshot? That's a terrible. I thought I felt that in a room. I see him on the edge of the property, got them sheep in the background baaing or doing whatever sheep do. I see him slinging that old sling and letting the rock go. And I see him missing. I don't think he ever missed. You're wrong. He missed. He was human, not divine. I don't know. Down the story a little bit, Bathsheba will prove he's human. Emphasis on the man. I see him on the edge and I see him practicing. And here's how you practice. The only way to practice is to have ammunition. And so over a period of time, I see bottles put up, and I see oranges and cantaloupes and figs and whatever you need to have in your mind. Kind of like every kid in this room that's ever stood in your backyard or at the gym and went 3, 2, 1, and you miss and then go, just kidding, 3. I see David thinking about a lion and then missing and be like, just kidding. Thinking about the lion. And here comes the bear from the woods. And here goes David. Sails right. Until he figured out just what kind of stone worked. He felt just what kind of stone. He felt just when to let go, just how to swing it, just how to send it. We have preached about this stone because David is about to take his sandaled feet and we're about to watch his vapored breath move through the coolness of the meadow. His legs would be drenched with the morning dew, and all the way there he's hearing fee, fi, fo, fum. Give me the blood of this little dum-dum. Here. The giant even says, am I a dog? I see your little rod, your little staff in your hand. I see, am I a dog? But David responds, I'm coming to you in the name . Listen, read your Bible. After David articulates Jehovah, the giant never says another word. Part of the reason the enemy stays so loud in our life is because we haven't determined yet whether we're doing this for us or him. The enemy of your soul ought to know I'm not doing this on my behalf. We're not trying to have revival for our behalf. I'm doing this in the name of the Lord, Jehovah, whom thou not worried about your threat. I'm tired of your intimidation. I'm not coming by. Come on, how many still believes it's not by might? It's not by power, but it's by His Spirit. And he reaches in the pocket. And he pulls out a smooth. Remember old Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper can David. Reaches in and grabs that stone. That's how many remember it? Big old ugly giant standing across there. And all of a sudden, how many believe that David really killed that giant? If you believe, just raise your hand. You really believe this Bible's true? You really? Yeah. You really believe the Lord helped David and used David, and David never wanted the glory. Saul got jealous about glory David never even wanted. One stone. But I've been in youth ministry so long, pardon me if you will, I've been in youth ministry so long, I got to feeling bad one day for the other 4 rocks. That's my problem. I'm a bleeding heart for the kids that don't get picked. Parents in the room, if it's ever been your kid, you know what I'm talking about. Show up to the youth event and somebody's isolated or sitting alone. Let me just say this right now. Cliques don't belong in the church. We don't have cool kids in the church. We don't have geeks and dorks. And we might, but we don't treat each other like... We're one bread and one body. There's one God, one Father of all, above all, through all in. Everybody say one rock. One rock got picked. What about the others? That one stone has got so much airtime. Put this in modern day. Yell out your favorite basketball player. I said your... Who? I heard a couple older guys like MJ. Okay. Okay, now listen. Be quiet. So imagine this. You take LeBron's most infamous play. Take Kobe's most infamous play. Take MJ's most infamous. Take any of them. I don't care which ball he shot. It wasn't the ball. It was that he had spent every day in the gym shooting 1,000 free. Taking 1,000 shots from the three-point line. When nobody was around. When nobody was watching. How did David know what stones to pick? I'm going to give you the secret right here in case you don't know. He picked the stones that would work in public based on what he knew worked in private. Hold on, now hear me for a second. When it came time to reach into the flow, when it was time to face this public giant, the only thing he knew was what worked when the lion showed up and no one was around. And what worked when the bear showed up and nobody was there. Because he knew that he had to be willing to fight battles when nobody was there to give him a female for the... What kind of battles are you fighting when no one is around to give you your credibility? I'm telling you right now, if you want to kill public giants, you better kill private ones. Listen, I thank God for HYCs, but if you want a move of God in your family, you can get into a private prayer closet in the middle of your house or the back of your... Come on, you can wade into the flow. I thank God for these musicians. You don't need these musicians to get in the flow. You don't need this worship leader to get in the flow. I don't care if you go to the smallest country church in this whole state. If you will get alone in the flow, God will give you the ability. And yes, we need public victories. I'm not against it, I'm for it. I think we ought to put the microphone in young men and young women's hands. I think we ought to give them public victories. But we're not going to have public victories that are real victories unless we have some private victories. When nobody but the sheep are being guarded. Where there is no credibility. What about these other 4 rocks? Can I give you a revelation here today? I want every kid in this room that wants to be used by God on any level to hear me and hear me very clearly. Most stones go home. There will be some public shooting stars. There will be some guys that preach camps. There will be some ladies that record, and awesome, we need it. What happened to those other 4? I'll tell you what happened to them. The shepherd knew, as sure as I fought a bear last week, these are good stones. These are good. I picked them because they work in public, but I'm not going to get rid of them. Let me ask you this question. I want to try to help every pastor represented by every young person in this room. If he reached into his pocket, are you even a stone the shepherd could use? You want to preach, but you won't even be faithful to teach Sunday school. I'm going to tell you right now. There's people in this room right now that you feel called to be an evangelist. You've even talked to your pastor about it, and you haven't knocked the doors in your neighborhood in the last year. We got young adults in this room right now that feel a call to missions that are not even giving to a missionary monthly. See, they got nervous, like, ha, 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 ha. That's like when you text a pretty girl and say, you looked really nice tonight. And she texts back, ha ha. That's not like, hi, you're so funny. That's like, ha ha, ha ha. Nervous laughter. Blocked. If your pastor's looking for an intercessor, if he reaches into the shepherd's script, are you even a rock that's smooth enough? Or have your Instagram posts been showing you're still too jagged for flight? He wants to use you because God wants to use you, but are you even... You heard me last night. I called for prophets and Nazarites and young men and young women, but I'm preaching on behalf of your pastor tonight and telling you, you got to get in the flow to where your pastor. Hey, pastor. Hey, pastor. Put me on the praise team. Hey. Quit singing in the hallway. Sister Acoustics. Trying to get on the... Hey. And everyone, stop. Singing everyone. Just wanted you to know that I can sing. No. Pastor, I got a real good thought. I really feel like I got a good thought, just letting you know. I mean, I don't need a pulpit, but I'm just letting you know. I'm going to tell you what I'm asking you. If I'm your pastor, tell me who you're in a Bible study with. Boy, it's dangerously quiet, but I'm only here for 2 days. I'm going to preach what I feel here tonight. We need we need to know how to pray, not perform. Yes, we do. I'm not trying to take any shots. I'm not trying to take shots. I'm trying to deliver what I feel from the Lord. But I've been here now for 2 nights, and during our worship services right here in this district, we've got a lot of spectators. That may have been my last invitation right there. I'm not being mean, but I'm telling you right now, this is not an entertainment club for us. That's not what this is. We are entertaining Him. We are worshiping. Listen, our apostolic services ought to be so vibrant and powerful, and the flow of the Spirit and the shaking of the rocks. And if I'm not worshiping, dance right into me. Get me involved. We need some friends that, can I tell you this? We need some friends that will not let us be comfortable to be lethargic. Where we'll stay up all night long playing games on all night long. Well, I'm not really made to witness. I'm not that kind of, I don't have that. But yet you'll play games and talk to strangers all. Come on, I'm coming head on at some of this stuff right now. And all the while, let me tell you what's happening, even if you don't know it. Your pastor's going to go home next week, and no, it might not be a physical bear, but it's probably going to be a bear that materializes as some gossiping tongue in the church. And it might not be a physical lions and tigers and bears. Yeah. But it might be the kind of lion that comes up in critical thought against your youth pastor. You know what you need to be? You need to be the kind of stone that the youth pastor could say, hey, we need somebody that'll get on the bus route and ride. I know you're not old enough to drive, but we just need somebody that'll know the names of these kids. Hand them suckers when they're getting on. I don't know, that's not very powerful. Yes, it is powerful. It's the smoothing of the... I don't know, I really want to be that one stone that flies over the pub. I'll be honest with you. I love what I get to do, but I think the only reason I get to do it is because this isn't real appealing to me. I'm not real interested in being your hero. I love that local church. I love those. If you want to be a public hero, but you're a private failure, what does it matter if everybody in the world knows your name in Pentecost and not one sinner knows your name in your city? I'm telling you, if those lions and those bears, if they could have testified, they would have been shaking in their boots when David was picking out those smooth stuff. I know they couldn't talk and they couldn't testify, but I'm telling you this way, apostolic young people ought to make hell tremble. I'm going to give you a revelation right now. Hell knows what works. I'm going to say it again while no one's clapping so you can hear me. Hell knows what works. Hell knows what works. That's why he's fighting you the way he's fighting you. That's why you're dealing with lust the way you are. Part of it's just because you're human. You're not special. You're human. You got to bring your body under subjection. But part of it is spiritual. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of what? So while I'm fighting my flesh, I'm also fighting the spirit. And the last thing that we want to be is like them 7 sons of Sceva, that even the devil said, I know Jesus, and I know Paul. Who are you? I'm not impressed by your tie. I'm not impressed by your suit. I'm not. You should not be intimidated when the devils know your name. You should be intimidated when they don't. Come on, Michigan District. You apostolic young, you ought to make hell nervous when you walk into school. Some of you walking back into school next week, hell ought to get nervous. Hell ought to get nervous. The waters ought to be troubling. Yeah. Come on, some of you are feeling it right now. I'm tired of being weak. I'm tired of being average. I'm tired of being apathetic. I'm ready to be a stone that the shepherd can use. I'm ready to be a giant killer. I'm ready to be a lion slayer. I'm ready to be a bear destroyer. I'm going to ask something. I want every pastor that's willing, that's here, come help me. Come join me for a second. Just come stand on the platform. Pastors, come help me for a second. If you're a pastor, come. We're finishing. I know I preached too long. Yeah, we're going to probably be tight, but it'll be perfect. Come on in. Come on in here. Yeah. Thanks. I want to interview our pastors just for a second. As a pastor, I already know the answer to this, but you want to use them, don't you? We've known each other a long time, all the way back to, we went to school 2 or 3 years ago together. I know you've never had a day where you've said, God, there's just too many of them. We're going to overwhelm the city. We want to use them. And we want good singers. Don't we? Listen, we want good singers. No pastor on this platform is at home praying, God, I don't even need any that are talented. We do. Otherwise, we got to come to you and say, I feel like the Lord is wanting to use you in a new way. We want to use them. But there's nothing that will quite gut the heart of a pastor like seeing a young person with all this potential. And then you show up online doing that. I was just reaching for a stone that would help with this giant of our city and revival in our youth group and a breakthrough in our schools. And I thought you were the... But now, pastors, I've also felt was in a pastoral role for 13 years in Ohio, and now for the last 3 almost in Indianapolis. And I have felt the pain of having to lose some good stones that I know would have worked at home. I'm telling you what I know you've already experienced. Like the young couple that came to me a year and a half ago. I'm telling you, talented, gifted, anointed, burdened to do something for God. And they have a call of God. And I'm seeing all these places they can be used. But the problem is they weren't called to be used at my place. And I could hear the echoing thunder of God asking me the question, are they mine or yours? And I know I've experienced the pain now time and time and time again. I know it's joy to watch them flourish, but there's also a sting in it, isn't there, when you have to put them in the sling. Hear me, hear me, hear me. Please catch this concept because it's critical. You don't want them to get to the place where they simply have to release you. You need them to be able to send you. David could have released that stone and it would have fell at his feet. God, I do my part. Stones burning my hand. I got to just release it. No, a big part of this miracle was that usable stone in the hands of a trusted shepherd. And there's some of them we're not going to want to, but we're going to have to send them across the state to pastor. Boy, I'm in something right now. We want to start churches all over. I'm going to tell you right now, Michigan, we don't have a fraction of the churches we need. We don't. And we're going to have to, we can't have territorialism about it. We got to start churches. But when we start churches, we got to do it right. And it's got to be the process of sending. And there's kids even in this room. There's kids even in this room that God's dealing with their heart. There's kids in this room that they've been laying in their bed at night crying warm tears over people that they've never met in countries they've never stepped their. There's kids in this room that could help our churches and help our local assemblies. But we're going to have to reach into the pocket knowing that they're able to be used at home, and we're going to have to send them to countries. And we're going to be nervous, aren't we? We are. I've sent some people already in 3 years into some places that make me nervous, but somehow I felt the peace of. I've sent couples into neighboring communities to plant churches because I don't want that community going down. But the only way I've found that this works is because while there will be some public ones that get sent, there's 4. 4 to every one. What about if your name never gets written down in lights? Yeah, well, what if you baptize your neighbor? Come on. If all heaven rejoices over one, don't you think all 900 of us should? Shouldn't it still be a big deal to get the battle won at home? Some of you are going to go home and work at schools in your local community and banks in your local community and construction sites in your local community. And it's not about fame and fortune and popularity and international travel and evangelist this and great preacher that. It's just about a It's just about a hometown burden. I'm not calling for everybody, and I apologize. We'll pray for everybody maybe in a minute. But I'm calling for those in this room that you genuinely believe you have a call of God on your life. You genuinely believe you've got a call of God on your life. And when He reaches into the shepherd script of the youth group, you want to be someone.
Yes, God can use you.
You want to be usable. If that's you, I know it's not everyone. I understand that. This is not a universal altar call to start this thing. But you know you got a call of God. I'm not even saying you've been living the way you should be living. I'm not even saying your social media's been right. I'm just saying you know. If I don't get in the flow and let God do this.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
You're the answer to their prayers. Whether your pastor's here or not, you're the answer to the prayers they've been praying. If you feel that call, you feel a call of God on your life, you know that there is a call of God. You believe through faith there is a call of God on your life. I don't want you to kneel. I just want you to come stand. I want you to press as close to this as you possibly can. It's not everybody. I know that. But to the person that knows it's you and is thinking about not coming because you don't think it makes a difference, I feel prompted to tell you it does make a difference for you tonight to get out of your seat and get as close as you can. Those that are coming, I'm telling you, get as close as the rocks in the riverbed. Get as close as is acceptable to your neighbor. Get close. Get close enough, you got to bump into each other. Get close enough, you got to hear. You're about to be close enough, you're going to feel each other pray and not just hear each other. I'm going to tell you something. Hear me right now. Intercession tried to sweep into this house this morning during the general session, and some of us did not identify it. We didn't understand what it was. There was a spirit of intercession that tried to sweep into this place, and we are so unfamiliar with it. I feel it again right now. I feel intercession. I'm asking every pastor that'll step to the edge of this platform and stretch your hands of sending and pray preparation. We would be susceptible to the flow. Come on, we're too desperate for revival to stay the same. Too desperate to just continue. We want the anointing too bad to just remain. We got to get in the flow. We got to get in the flow. We got to get in the flow. Come on, dig in a little bit. Take the rough places off of me. In the name of the Lord.